Alright, should be recording. That's fine. Just the cable to the mic is technically hanging in front of the mic, but that it really won't matter. But yeah, so continuing in Going Medieval, key was provided by Tinsley PR for the Irregular Corporation. Okay. That's right, I can. There it is. There. It was a little loud, so I just turned down the audio. Only actually one thing to talk about. At least that I have in my notes. It's a doozy. But I also just want to look around and figure out what all do I want to do next? Why are you suffering from the cold? You got to autumn? Okay. Well, true. He's also outside, but still, I'll do that much. Why are those not being built? I have a lot of resources. I guess I need to chop some trees. Like that one that's already marked for. So yeah, the only really significant piece of news that I made a note for. Does that work? No, it doesn't. Is Embracer has sold another part of itself. Well, another company that had previously purchased and some of the stuff it owned. Not everything though. Yeah, so it was a couple weeks ago when it sold, well, divested is apparently the word being used, itself of Saber Interactive, which seemed to not just be about selling it so that it reduced their any economic issues that they've been dealing with, like high debt and needing to deal with that, improving cash flow, capital expenditures, and all that. CapEx, I understand some of this stuff. I don't understand it all, but it's not just about that. No, wait, hang on. That's right. The Saber Interactive Group one seemed to not just be about that. It seemed to also be about they had previously made the decision, their board had, to get out of Russia, and that's a lot. Polecats. Anyway, and they're finally doing that. That divesting would get them out of Russia, as they said that they wanted to. There. Yeah, that's all I can do. I want to be careful with this so I don't catch things I don't want to deconstruct. That tree being gone does help. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so with this, though, with Gearbox, it's Gearbox, so the Borderlands franchise, also Homeworld, and there are some other things that, well, I don't remember if they did any work on Duke Nukem recently, but that does seem right that Duke Nukem, because Embracer had that they put that under Gearbox. But those properties and some others here. Did I have the complete list? No. Just actually those three. Borderlands, Homeworld, and Duke Nukem. Those IPs, along with Gearbox. There is one... Not everything is being sold by Embracer Group. Some of the stuff they are keeping. But that stuff I just mentioned, that has been sold to Take-Two, which owns 2K. So this actually makes a lot of sense for Gearbox, because 2K is who has been the publisher for, unless where I was looking it changed it that quickly, even though the deal hasn't technically closed yet. 2K is the publisher for the Borderlands series, so they've long had a relationship with 2K, Take-Two more largely, and Gearbox have long had a relationship. So that probably works out very well for them. I'm not sure where Homeworld might have been. If that might have still been under 2... Actually, no, because Gearbox got into their own publishing. But that, I'm pretty sure, is something that is going with them. That's not sticking with Embracer Group. Because as I said, some stuff is... I'm just... If they're hungry, then that means I need to slaughter some stuff. I got a sheep I could maybe slaughter. 'Cause that's an old one. Nope. Well, yeah, because I only have the 2. What do I have for goats? You really need to have filters here. I'm sorry, this is just... Holy crap, I got a lot of dogs. I really did not realize that. I think going after the chickens would make the most sense, so... Alright, plenty of males, so there. Get rid of those 3, 4, so the 4 oldest males. That should hopefully be enough. Because I do think it is that the dog wants meat. And I don't know if I can just, like, harvest, well, go fishing. But, yeah, so those properties are moving. But what is not moving... Oh, and I didn't put down the name. So, I think it was Perfect World? Some of the studios are not going with Gearbox, but I think some of those might not have, well, I'm not sure how many of them were originally part of Gearbox or just put under, because this is also what happened with Saber Interactive. When Embracer had purchased them, they made them the head of a working group, and there were things underneath, things then being put into the working group that went, I just realized that, then it's like they were in charge of, and some of that stuff, it makes sense, would just stay with Embracer, because it wasn't originally part of that company. It occurred to me, do I have... I know I wanted to make more of the carpets. I have no idea where they are, though, if any were made. Because really, that is such a silly system. That's like, you have to make it and then you can place it. It's like, no, let me say this is what I want to have made and just have it then produced there. And boy, is there a lot of sticks that no one's picking up. Yeah. So, my brain needs to turn back on. Yeah, one of them was Perfect World, but I think that's the one that got renamed to have Gearbox in the name. That will be renamed, since Embracer doesn't want to have anything named Gearbox, since that would be confusing. Not sure if they might then like rename it to back what it to be back to what it originally was. But yeah, so that's a thing. But they are also keeping Neverwinter Online and Star Trek Online, 2 MMOs, and also various publishing rights. I don't remember what it said there. Remnant was one of them. The Remnant franchise. Hyper Light something. This I actually do have in there. Hyper Light Breaker and 2 unannounced games they're keeping the publishing rights for. So that would mean that while it would still be among these Gearbox studios that the development is being done, it's Embracer, not Take-Two, that will be publishing. Which probably makes a lot of sense, depending on where they are in development. I could see that just being look, we put in enough of this, we want to keep the publishing rights, because that means that would be Embracer making most of the money. And that's probably, I could just see, normal sausage making and stuff. I wouldn't imagine if you negotiate negotiations. The other's like, no, we demand it. It's like, that's a way to kill a deal, at least in my opinion. My very uneducated opinion on these matters. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. Just trying to think if there's anything else to mention from that. Nothing really, but it is definitely significant because, Embracer for so long was buying up a bunch of companies. And in some ways, that was a good thing, I think, because it included buying up some older IPs that then got new life because they seemed interested, Embracer seemed interested in trying to give them that new life. Which, many other companies wouldn't bother with that when buying up old IPs. They would just, want to own it for the back catalog or something and then just leave it at that. So this is potentially a good thing. Well, no, them purchasing things up can be potentially a good thing, but it does... I don't know what this translates to, but it is just Embracer's having trouble, it seems. Because the mention of this to help with their debt was also in the press release. So, yeah. Hopefully, though, and this is wild speculation kind of thing, almost certainly not going to happen. If you were to see it collapse like a THQ did all those years ago, hopefully they would try to do so more gracefully. Where it's not just everything gets sold at auction, but instead just like separating out the different working groups so that then they can be independent, run themselves, and try to make their money. I'm kind of tempted to make that anything. So like, well, you know what? Actually, I know what I can do. There. If they want that extra hour, they can have the extra hour. If they want to do leisure stuff, they can do that leisure stuff. But yeah, so it's... I don't know. But at the same time, though, I do feel like even if Embracer is struggling, they're a large enough company that so long as they aren't foolish, they should be able to figure things out. Like, they should have enough buffer to them that they can do things to right the ship if necessary. It would just be a question of commitments, because there can be some weird commitment stuff that can really kill you in a business. Yeah. Like where you just committed to spending millions of dollars on some project, and it's like, how do you get out of it? And it's like that's one thing that I've heard as kind of, sort of, but also apparently accurate conspiracy theory with some of the Hollywood strikes of late. That was actually so that enough projects would end up being in a state where they could be canceled. Projects where there'd already been millions of dollars spent, but more was committed. But it's like, oh wait, they haven't been working, for so long. That means that we are allowed to just cancel this. Yeah, I just want to. I'm trying to figure out if I want to like start lighting these up. I don't know. But yeah, so hopefully it wouldn't be something like that. But I don't know. I did see one thing though that was just like, I get what the guy's point is. Apparently Phil Spencer was talking about how it's kind of, how did he put it? It was basically the issue of growth, and where I saw it, did not understand what he was talking about, which is in some ways not surprising. Well, didn't understand at least a potential nuance to what he was talking about, and I can understand that because it is one of those things that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. That essentially what Spencer was lamenting, from what I very quickly read, I should acknowledge that I only quickly read through it, was that growth is defined as profit, which typically that's okay, revenues are going up, you're growing. But he was saying that right now, revenue isn't going up. So to achieve profit, you need to reduce cost. And that's why you're seeing so many layoffs. And he was lamenting this, that it's like, it sucks that that's where the situation is now, that you need, that growth is defined by that, and people won't invest in you unless you're growing. So it's this weird thing. It's like, yeah, no, that there is some validity there. That it becoming more about the money than about the art does hurt it, but let's also be real. You're never going to have a non-profit video game company that people are actually going to care about. I mean, it's like, to use Embrace or Take-Two, they're never going to be non-profit. Okay? And I wouldn't be surprised if they would not engage with, like, oh yeah, we'll publish a non-profit game unless it's they have a lot of faith in that game. And it's just that's just how it is. I'm just thinking, could you really do any art creation business non-profit? A museum can be non-profit, but it's like they're not creating anything. They're not having to pay creatives. They're there to display. As opposed to, like, an artist. I mean, it's like you do need to... I'm just... Yeah, because it's also like that. Because I'm also just thinking, like, if you use myself as an example, because I write, that technically makes me an artist. Oh boy. And I mean, technically I'm doing a nonprofit because I don't make any money, but it's one of those, you wouldn't want to donate like you do to a museum just so that somebody has the ability to write them. You wouldn't want to do that, because what's the incentive to write well if they're just making money even when they're working on it? And also, what's the incentive to finish? I was like, that's a big question right there. What's the incentive to finish if the person makes money regardless? So there are reasons to still maintain a profit motive, but it is also a fair point that growth is, by defining growth only as profit, it can be dangerous versus if you were somehow to say, like, oh yeah, this was a very good game, maybe it didn't sell it. Let's actually use that. Mirror's Edge. That is actually a good game, but it's a cult classic. It, to my knowledge, was never that economically successful. Well, at least not initially. Right? Well, you can still say that's a success. Did you make much money? Well, no, but it's actually a very well received game. It's just not a lot of people play it. It doesn't connect with a lot of people. Some people would say, oh, well, that's a failure then, because you didn't make a lot of money. It's like, well, no, it's still success. It's just not as broad a success as someone was hoping. So having that kind of nuanced argument there is not that easy. But one thing, and this, I wish I could remember the guy's name. It's one that always exits my mind, but it's one of those weird things that about economics, especially in America, where it used to be, and I'll use a timber company as the example, because that's probably the easiest example to give. It used to be, like, beginning of the 20th century, a timber company would always, like, yeah, I mean, of course we're going to replant trees after we cut them down. Why wouldn't we? Because it's like, we need those trees later. So yes, we are going to spend money, spend capital to plant them so that in the 10, 20 years, however long it takes for that specific weed to grow, they'll be grown and then we can cut them then. You know, it's like that was just part of the business. And I can't remember the guy's name, but there was one professor, and he was at Harvard Business School, and this is actually, yes, Harvard Business. And this is very important that it was there. And I think I've talked about this in other videos. I don't necessarily know if it's one of these. He advocated for instead, no. When you're, especially a publicly held company, your only responsibility is to maximize shareholder value, which would be profit. So you could not then have, like, that same logging company. It's like, but you're not increasing profit. You're spending it on something that's not increasing our profit now. It's like, well, no, but it's better overall. It's a healthier design. It's a healthier way to function as a company. And we'll need this in need these trees in 10, 20 years. But this response with this kind of thinking is, well, no, you can just cut down the trees over there. You don't need to spend it here. Why are you spending anything here? And the thing is, the guy, other economists at the time were like, yeah, this is a crock. You don't do this. This is actually bad. This is not healthy. Might be more profitable, but a company needs to be healthy, not just profitable. They wrote papers disproving his theories. And I think even Harvard acknowledged that, yeah, what he's teaching isn't exactly correct. But they never fired him. And Harvard Business School is one where if you have a degree from them, you could basically walk to Wall Street. Just walk into any number of stockbrokers and such with that degree, and you'll just be given a job. That's how prestigious it was. I doubt it still is. Which meant then that this dude was teaching his theory to a bunch of students then that were guaranteed jobs. Regardless of his theories being wrong, they were guaranteed jobs. And so you had his theory, despite, as I said, being proven wrong by other economists. Despite that, it proliferated. And that's, to me, I recognize that's what Spencer was talking about. It's not about making sure that companies are healthy. It's about making sure that companies are profitable. And because they are such basically slaves to that's the one thing that they have to do, they can't do the other things. And it also meant then that, because what's another way to ensure profit, to ensure revenues, to have something to sell. So you saw companies growing their teams, with the theory at least, that will allow them to produce more items to sell, produce more games to sell. But that has consequences, because then you end up, if those games aren't good, those people technically are not justified in their being at the company. So you now have a bunch of people that are incurring a cost on the company, you have to pay them, but are not contributing enough. So when it's like, hey, we need to cut costs, you need to lay people off, well, you've technically got a pool there. So, I mean, it is a lousy situation, but it is also, was it 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? I made the point that with some of these layoffs, it's like, if they're actually good at this stuff, they'll be able to bounce back. There's it's not going to be fun. The experience of being unemployed for a while will not be fun, but it's still, they'll be able to get jobs at other developers. They'll be able to start their own independent game development companies. Or, and this is also very, very realistic, they can get jobs somewhere else. Oh man, how long ago was it that I saw? It's actually kind of funny. Where basically they were like, yeah, we cannot. It was for banks and such. They were like, yeah, we can't actually get developers to make better banking software. Why not? Because we use C, and that's what every game developer uses as well. And yeah, that's more prestigious work, and they're willing to throw $100,000 salary to somebody that we can only throw $60,000 or $70,000 salaries at. I'm thinking about it. Where would you, if you're a developer, where would you rather work? At a video game company or at a bank? A lot of people today would say video game company, because they feel a greater connection there. It's more interesting to them. It's going to be more fun potentially. But it's, a bank would probably be a lot more stable. But it's also, if the video game company is offering to pay more, then yeah, that's what you're going to end up doing. But my point there is that for the actual engineers, the actual developers, if they're the ones being laid off, there's other places they can go. So it will work out for them. It's only those where it's like, yeah, they're not that good. Where it's like, yeah, well, I guess they might not do so well. But then you got the argument of, well, why were they in a job with those responsibilities to begin with? I mean, that may sound harsh, but it is sort of if you're not pulling your own weight, so to speak, then why are you somewhere that you have that weight on you? You should find somewhere else that you can pull your own weight, one way or the other. And for anyone that needs this context, I don't mind being kind of harsher in my statements on stuff like that, because it's like I technically have only ever been unemployed or underemployed since I graduated in 2011. right? I've been rejected for jobs where I had every qualification that they asked for, and rejected without even like getting interviews. So it's like you're not. I can sympathize with people, but it's like at the same time they're not going to suffer anywhere near what I did. So, and I made it through. I was like, technically, right now I am only underemployed. I am employed, but it is underemployment. So it's like, I mean, my situation is better than it used to be, but it still is. Like, I mean, it sucks. It's like, anybody's like, but their lives are horrible. It's like, yeah, I know. I've been there, done that for years. You're not telling me something I don't know, but I don't need to imagine what it's like. So it's, yeah, I don't need to imagine what it's like. That was my life for a while. They'll get through it. It'll work. And it's also some of these people, like, they already have the jobs. They already have the work experience. Because that is also part of it, is when you're unemployed. Well, chronic unemployment is a reason companies will use to not hire, which sucks. Because that basically means you don't have this person doesn't have a job? Well, then we're just going to reject the application, because if they don't have a job, there must be a reason they didn't have a job. So we're not even going to think about what that reason might be or look at anything else. It's circular firing squad kind of logic. Yeah, then why are you not... It's like literally convalesce 10 is number one, and they're going and doing anything else. It really is stuff like this that makes me doubt this game. I mean, she is injured and doing everything else. Yeah, what are you doing now? Going to bed. We have those things. Whatever. There. What the hell is she doing now? Oh, now that is dumb. My guess it. Wait, where did Martin go? He had to go to get this. Okay. I wonder then. Hang on. Where the hell is Martin? He went to. He never did anything for her. Okay, so I could do that. Maybe. Oh, I thought okay, well. I can still do this then. Hey, well, yeah, let's actually put it over there instead. I'm gonna try to make it so that all the medical supplies are here. I was hoping, though, to see something where it's... Like the bookshelf. Where it can be on the wall, but no, apparently not. Yeah, I can't think of anything else to really say at that point. I mean, it's just... Well, I guess, yeah, just going back to... I think that what Spencer was saying was essentially he understands that that's the situation where it's not that... it's not that... because the place I saw it was trying to say that, oh, this is how... This is... Capitalism is at fault. It's like, no, that's not what he's saying. It's the singular focus on that, how are you doing in training? Yeah, all right. It's that singular focus on profit, which you do still need to consider. That is where you are more so running into issues. Turn all that off. I have no idea what I just did, by the way. Like, there might be way more than this can take. I mean, in which case I might be able to just put like some extras there. Like, well, yeah, let's. I don't want to block the window. I don't know if that's even a thing, but yeah. But yeah, so it's just seeing that quote from him. That is my interpretation. He was saying more so that it sucks that the industry has not been about health for the businesses. It's been about just profit. But that can be said about a lot of industries. And it is also, I've seen some people point out that there are decisions being made, and he was also saying this, there are decisions being made so that you can secure loans, as opposed to decisions being made to be in a better position. Which, yeah, because, I mean, it's, no taxation without representation as well is kind of there, in that the part of American history, the whole Boston Tea Party, throwing the tea into the Boston Harbor, that was not. Yes, there was the tea tax. It wasn't about the amount of the tea tax. That wasn't what was relevant to them. It was the fact, although it had been raised, but they had also lowered it, or at least offered to lower it, but that wasn't the issue, is that the tea tax was levied by the British Parliament, which meant that the tax was going to the British Parliament, and it was then that money that was turned around to go back to the colonial governors. Which meant then, who were the governors actually responsible to? They were responsible to Parliament, not the colonies. They were responsible to Parliament, not the people they were governing. Because it's who pays you that you actually work for. And that I think is also part of the issue, in that when you are in a situation where you are trying to secure these loans, like from any bank or is it equity firms? Is that what the term? I should know the name. I just can't think of what it is. Female. Okay. Yes. Because that I don't I only have males? Male cattle? So confused, but then realized it. Okay. Oh no, I do also have another. Okay. Well, that's still fine. Having more is good. Okay, I think, yeah. I really should work on this stuff some more. Like, expand this out better. But yeah, once you have those companies and those banks and such, that they're the ones that are actually giving, are providing the loans. That means they're the ones that the money is coming from. So it's that is who then the developers are working for. And that can also be such a problem, because a bank doesn't care if a video game is good. If anything, they may be like, well, Call of Duty was really good before, and you're working on your own first-person shooter, so make sure you're making it like Call of Duty. It's like, well, we had a different idea in mind. Yeah, but Call of Duty succeeds. That makes lots of money. We want you to pay the loan back. It's, that kind of thinking can be problematic when you're trying to do artistic work. I'm just thinking what I want to, because I am seriously thinking about trying to like expand it. I like the idea of keeping the moat. I'm just not entirely sure how. I guess one thing, which, I mean, it's not exactly the nicest thing, but still, let's do it. Not exactly the nicest thing, because it's going to get cold, and apparently you don't want to, like I saw one person in a comment saying that, yeah, I try to make sure that that the settlers don't have a bunch of, how do I not have, anyway, trying to make sure that they have a bunch of indoor tasks to do when it's winter, which it's actually going to turn winter very, very shortly. In fact, I can stop. I think I can stop when that's what happens. They had not worked on any of that. Okay, no. Let's... I do not trust them to change their own clothes, by the way. I think that has been obvious already, but yeah. Just get somebody over there to do that, but it's also go and change your clothes. But yeah, the seasons are each 12 days long. Yep, 12 days each. So we'll be hitting winter very shortly. Turn those on. Those on. Yeah, they can save meeting. Those do. Yes, I do. Those are already closed. Closed. I don't think there's anything else. But yeah, so when it hits winter, that's when I will save and stop. Yeah, at least I don't think that this week's has been as weird for me for the topics I talked about than last week when I started going through classic television. At the same time, though, classic television is still really good. It will be a little interesting to me anyway, because as I understand that there is that context of that profit focus view of economics, that some people don't know enough history of economics to recognize that that's not traditional capitalism, even because as I said, even 100 years ago, that is not how companies worked, and they succeeded. Another thing, where was it? This was a while ago, but it was interesting where they were comparing. Used to have companies that what they would do is they would actually have executive training programs, and this piece was comparing IBM versus Intel, and that at IBM you very much had an effort to bring up. Neat. Hang on. Overview. Okay, it is already set to hold then, but yeah, it's like I just got one of them trained well enough for that. But that IBM, they would train them to be able to want to work together. And that meant that, like, with AMD, because Lisa Su came from IBM, she went through that program. The idea that she has been at AMD as long as she has makes sense, because she's been trained to try to work with the other people there, to work well with them, and to bring the company all up together. Whereas Intel's executive training method was much more cutthroat. So you would see in Intel the different vice presidents making decisions that would try to undercut other vice presidents, so that they advance, they advance and their competition, because like everybody, oh well, I want to be president, I want to be CEO. Everyone else, gets cut down, and how that doesn't necessarily help the company. It helps the individual, but not the company. And it is kind of that as well. Different views there, different approaches, and there are technically benefits to both, but which is going to be more healthy? the IBM one, where it's trying to bring the whole company up, everyone in the company. It's not just about you, it's about everyone. Actually, I'm going to wait until dawn so it'll actually say, because it hasn't given me the pop-up yet that, hey, it's winter. But yeah, it's that notion of health for a company is something that I think a lot of people, it has been lost on some people, because you need to understand, you need to know that some of the history, but I could very easily, a lot of that isn't taught. That's part of the history. Which is a shame, because it then, I think a lot of people, here we go, that's what I wanted. I could believe that a lot of people, if they were to see some of that history and understand it, could even be like, well, this is what we should go back to. Which, yeah, I definitely would believe that would be a good idea, try to get back to some of that. But it's how do you... It gets tricky because of the whole thing. Like, there's a lot of people... you may not realize this, but there's a good chance that if you work for many companies, you are already invested in the stock market because you have a retirement plan, and that is based on stock market, and, well, that makes you shareholders. So that way of thinking that, hey, we have to boost shareholder value, that's boosting your retirement. So if you then start advocating for something that technically reduces shareholder value, but improves the health and longevity of the company, you're technically hurting yourself. And all it takes is some people to explain that, well, you're cutting off your own retirement. There's a lot of people that would then be like, well, I don't know. It's just a weird situation, unfortunately, complex and easy to be misinformed on. What I know is correct, but I don't know much. All right, like I do know. I wish I could remember the name. I almost want to say it was Kinsey, but I do not know. I could be completely wrong on that. And well, here, let me see. I might be able to find it now that I'm not focused on the game. It also very likely won't. No. I like to keep bookmarks of different things. No. No. Yeah, I do believe I have it bookmarked. I just do not remember what the name is. And I got a lot of these bookmarks where it's an interesting thing, so I want to keep it. Oh, hang on. I'll pause the recording for now and see if I can find it. Okay. I was very wrong on the name. It's the Friedman Doctrine. Milton Friedman. This isn't the actual... What I found isn't actually the original piece I was talking about, where it was going through how, yeah, this is not actually how that works. But yeah, it's Friedman Doctrine, also called the shareholder theory, and I'm actually only reading through it now. This is just the Wikipedia thing on him. So that the social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. Yes. So yeah, this is the thing, and yeah. And as I said, it is something that the thing I had seen, I've not found a bookmark for that yet, but this is good enough for me to continue talking about it. But it was the whole thing that it people saying, no, this isn't how that works, this isn't how it should work, but he worked at Harvard Business Schools, which meant if he taught it, because Harvard didn't tell him you need to stop teaching this, it just kept going, and it invaded and took over. And it's not about the health of a company, it's about just the shareholder value. And the funny thing is, I think at one point, I don't want to say it's actually law, but like somebody was successfully able to argue in a court, or it was the SEC, Security and Exchanges Commission, that basically decided that that is what a publicly held company's legal obligation is. Which doesn't make any sense when you consider that would basically say that, well, then all these companies before the doctrine were acting illegally when they were not doing that. So it's yeah. But yeah, and it is definitely problematic. And it would absolutely lead to, with a video game company, where you are then making decisions to just maximize shareholder profits and not the health of the company, which means you can end up growing too large. You can end up overstaffing, and then you need to cut it all out when the revenue ceases to be there. And the funny thing is how easy that can dry up. I mean, think of it this way, and I do think you are seeing some of that happen today in other ways, but I mentioned Call of Duty earlier, and how a bank might be like, well, Call of Duty is really successful, we're giving you the loan, make a game like Call of Duty, because that way it'll be really successful. It's like, that's not how it actually works. But imagine if Call of Duty, if enough players that decided, you know what, this is boring. Or, you know what, I don't want to spend $60 on the new game, I'll just keep playing the old one. Call of Duty would then collapse. And I don't know if that's already happened or not. I don't follow Call of Duty. That's not my kind of game. But it is, like you used to have, that's how consoles were being sold. That's how the game was being sold, where there's a new one every year. You had people where all they played was like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Madden, and every year they would just buy the newest version. They'd buy whatever the correct console is played on, or whatever their preferred console is, and then that's what they would play. And that's all that they would play for the entire year until the new one came out. They wouldn't necessarily explore other things. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. If that's how you choose to game that way, have fun. But if you break that person's habit of coming in every year to get the next one, you have now lost a lot of sales, potentially. Because chances are if one person starts doing that, their friends may also decide, you know what, yeah, you're right, we'll just stick on the old one. Or if they start looking at other games, which, true, other games, then it might be another Activision game, it might be another EA game, so they're not losing the sales then. It's just going elsewhere. Except that then the studios that would work on Call of Duty would work on Battlefield and so on. They would start seeing reduced numbers and things like that. And just, it becomes when the habit is broken, you then would end up having a competition of the player's choice. Do I want to play Call of Duty, or do I want to play Going Medieval kind of thing? Which is why you would actually need companies to diversify. But that, again, is something that, how do you explain? Yes, I know, we've always made first-person shooters, but now we really want to do a colony survival simulator. What bank is going to offer you money on that? It's like, you have no experience doing this. How can you possibly break into this genre if that bank even understands the concept of genres, which there's a lot of people that don't. I'm not saying that that's the case for all banks. Certainly there'd be plenty of bankers that are gamers and would understand, but that doesn't mean that they're the ones in charge of the loans. But it's ideally, you should have diversification in what you're doing, or you need to have a very slim team where your costs, your development costs are minimal, so that you can just get shit done, essentially. And that's what it's about. It's not about, hey, every now and then we're going to need this person, so we'll have them hired. It's like, no, it's every day they're coming in, they're able to work on something. And they are getting that work done, because I still remember, even, how long ago was that now? That Elon bought Twitter? But shortly before that, somebody shared, I'm pretty sure it was considered a real video. It wasn't somebody faking it. A young woman working at Twitter who's showing what her day is like, and it's like, so you spend maybe 2 hours working? Because it was like she would come in and immediately go to brunch, enjoy that there were wine dispensers. She would go up and spend time on the roof drinking the wine. There were like decompression chambers, which basically just personal time chambers. It's like, how is this actually helping your business? I was like, it makes it fun to be at work, but but are you doing any work? Because ultimately that's kind of thing, and that's That is not healthy. That is not a healthy business model. Um, and you, if you're keeping a slim team, that's not going to happen because it's like, well, no, everybody needs to get work done today, kind of thing. So it's there's a lot of nuance to some of the stuff. Some of it is not so subtle as you may think, but there can still be nuance because it could still be that you would have somebody where it's like, yeah, they spend a lot of the day not actively working, but maybe it's somebody that when they're needed for something like IT. Okay, in theory, IT, you might not have somebody always working because they might not always have a project to do, but when you need them now, kind of thing. So you can have situations like that. Maybe that, I don't think that was the case, but maybe that was what the young woman's job was, in which case then her just hanging around wouldn't be a bad thing. But going back to the idea of a slim team, maybe your IT guy is also a designer, all right? Or at least somebody that you will have him in there, even though maybe he's not a trained designer, but it's like, you know what? You play video games, right? Yeah. What do you think about this? Have him involved. So he's helping on the whiteboard. He can't help with any of the coding. Well, maybe he can't. But it's like, that's fine. But he's still able to contribute. Have him on the QA team, but he also does, where you start having people where it's like, no, you're always working here. It's not just a occasion we need you. It's okay, no, there's a higher priority task for you. When that comes up, you go and do that. So like, hey, the servers are down. Well, I'm at the whiteboard. It's like the servers are down. You have to go take care of that first. Okay. You can try to do things like that, but if you instead have business where it's like you just got a bunch of people waiting around until they get that high priority task, yeah, those are the people that potentially, if they're laid off, are going to struggle to find jobs, which sucks. So, but it's like, hopefully they'll find it somewhere else. But that would also, I don't know how that would well, I guess in theory that could align with the shareholder theory as far as you can minimize downtime by having that IT, and I'm just using IT as an example. Forgive me, anyone who's in IT and that I'm not understanding. I'm just trying to craft a very simple, basic example here. That it's like, minimize downtime because you have IT right there, as opposed, in-house IT, as opposed to we need to call somebody up, have them come in and fix it, but that's hours more of downtime, which could be everybody go home for the day kind of situation, as opposed to, okay, everybody smoke if you got them, we'll be back up in 10 minutes kind of thing. Because that in theory, that's something a banker would like. It's like, okay, minimal downtime, minimal cost, great. Oh, wait, it's going to cost you $70,000 a year as opposed to maybe say $10,000 a year? I mean, it's like they might not go that far, or it can be somebody just always argues, well, no, it's going to work out better in the long run. I mean, it's a weird thing, but it's exactly what I was saying. There's nuance to this, and I can believe a lot of people. It's like, as I also said, what I know, I do not. Like, I remember this shareholder theory stuff, even though I couldn't remember his name. But there's a lot of nuance. How does this apply? How does it not apply? Things like that. I don't have all that knowledge, and I don't have a complete knowledge of a lot of this. But when seeing those comments from Spencer, or at least the quotes, the partial quotes, because I doubt they're giving the full thing from Spencer, I see it, and I'm like, oh, he's talking about this kind of stuff. He's talking about the Friedman Doctrine. Other people look at it and just think it's capitalism that he's talking about. It's like, no, he's talking about this specific thing. That is so valuable to me, and to be able to see things and see the other parts there. And I really wish that more people knew that. I'll bet I've learned about the Friedman Doctrine because of a press release I saw talking about it. All right, a news item talking about it. I don't recall being taught that in school. But imagine if that were. Imagine if it were taught, and not specifically what the Friedman Doctrine is, I mean, but the larger idea around it and how it's, even at the time, other people saying, this is a bad idea. This is not good. This is unhealthy for a business. Imagine how that would impact the world. Because then you might have more children growing up to adults. They'd be like, okay, but is this healthy for the company that I'm working for or not? Or is this healthy for the company I'm trying to found? As opposed to just, well, this is the way it's done. But yeah, I don't know if we are at any kind of inflection point in the games industry. We might be. it will be interesting to see what happens over these coming years. But at least one thing with the video game industry that is very good is a lot of it is very indie supportive at the moment. By that I mean, if you got an idea and you got the skills, the talent to make a game, you can do it. You might not ultimately succeed, but it's like you can get a game on Steam, you can get a game on Epic, you can do this, you can do that. It's like you can do that. So even if it is, big names fall. Which does also mean then that a lot of, like, I was talking about banks giving money. If you get the money from, say, EA, that could write potentially as large a check as any bank, they understand games better than a bank. So them collapsing would be bad, because then you're relying on banks. Or maybe it's say, you know what, this game, it's only going to be, say, $2 million to make it, as opposed to 20 million. Well, that makes things a lot easier. But yeah, we may just see a move to indie games, and then you'll just see a rise from them to, because EA didn't start as a big company. None of these companies started as big companies. They started as small companies and then grew through their success. That might just have to end up happening again. It'll really just be a question of, at that point, will there be forces trying to control that growth, which can happen. Where you have old overlords in the industry just trying to control things again and picking and choosing winners themselves instead of letting the market decide, instead of letting the customer decide. But anyway, that is well more than enough of my talking. But yeah, the Friedman Doctrine, if you want to try looking that up. It is, I'm going mainly by memory, not just when I'm reading it, but it is a interesting thing, and has weird consequences that have not always been good throughout history. Anyway. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot, because one thing about the whole unemployment and underemployment, days just kind of blend together. I forgot, it's Easter weekend, so, and in fact, today is Good Friday. So for those of you that celebrate, Happy Easter. To everyone else, well, I celebrate, so I'm still going to say Happy Easter, because I'm sharing that celebration. And if you're celebrating something else, well, go ahead and share it with me. That's sharing celebration regardless. Yeah, so see you next time.